What's happening, guys? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown, and I'm back here with another Mythical Monday video. Now, as always, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment if you like, and I'll happily get back to you. Now, let's talk about this week's Mythical Monday matchup. A fantastic matchup, this one, man. One of the more popular fantasy fights that you can get in boxing. Shout out to Harvey for asking me to do this video. I said I'll do it for him this week, and this is one of the most popular, most well-known fantasy matchups that you can do, man. I'm talking about Sugar Ray Leonard against Floyd Mayweather. Now, both of these guys, where do you start, man? You've got two fantastic characters in the game. Two people that transcended the sport of boxing in their eras. Sugar Ray Leonard was, he was a phenomenon, a commodity. He was just a fantastic fighter, one of the all-time greats. And you could say the same for Floyd Mayweather. This guy, obviously I grew up watching Floyd. That was my era. And, the way how he transcended the sport, the way how he retired on 50-0, just the fact he's the highest earning boxer that's ever been alive in history. And this guy, yeah, both of these two were just fantastic outside of the ring in terms of their potential and what they earned, and just, just them as an actual character and commodity themselves. But in the ring, they both go down as all-time greats, both of them. Do you know what I mean? Floyd Mayweather was the man of this era. Sugar Ray Leonard was the man of the previous era. This would have been amazing. An all-American showdown, two fantastic characters, and both of them were 5-weight world champions, man. Sugar Ray Leonard went a bit further up in weight. He was the naturally bigger man. And Floyd Mayweather, he started off his career as a super featherweight. He won titles all the way up into light middleweight. So in this particular fight here between these two, it would make sense for the fight to happen at welterweight. So if you were to argue who was to win this fight in their primes, it's a question that has been, like I said, has been spoken about for so long, but I haven't actually given my opinion on this yet. And I'd just like to say it would have been a fantastic fight, man. These two guys, it's like looking in the mirror almost in terms of their ability, in terms of what they could do. But, some of them, that they both had their different, ways of going about it in the ring. But in terms of what they brought to the ring, it was just phenomenal. And let's get straight to it, man. Sugar Ray Leonard, he was the naturally bigger man. He was the undisputed welterweight champion. He was the one that had a fantastic performance against Roberto Duran in a rematch. He moved up to a middleweight, defeated Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard. Do you know what I mean? This guy was, I know some of the younger generation obviously know who he is, but I don't think they knew how, special he was as a fighter. Do you know what I mean? And he was that and more, Sugar Ray Leonard. You often see him and Floyd actually nowadays. Obviously, they get on pretty well. There's a lot of respect between the two. Both of them, as you will know, will say that, they've heard the question pop up numerous times as to who would have won if they had fought. And both of them, of course, would say each other would have won. And, Sugar Ray Leonard, he brought everything in the ring. He brought that blend of aggression, but he was a great technical boxer as well. Very slick. And he was just brilliant in everything that he did. Mayweather now, on the other hand, his pinpoint accuracy, he didn't have as much volume as Sugar Ray Leonard, but he didn't need to when he had the sort of accuracy that he did. He was just somebody that was so efficient in the ring. One of the more efficient fighters, one of the most I've ever seen probably in the ring in terms of efficiency. Mayweather was that guy. You look at the punch stats after any of his fights, man, and you just look at the punch accuracy that this guy had. Very rarely did anybody that I know have a higher punch accuracy than this guy. He was so good, especially as he got older, in terms of just like picking his shots, getting out the way, slipping, moving. He was just a fantastic fighter to watch. Maybe he'll be appreciated even more when he's gone. This fight here against Sugar Ray Leonard, man, it would have been a battle of, who would have been able to impose their style on the other more than, who would have been able to have the ring generalship. Because in terms of like the skills and the ability, they're very even in all departments. And that just goes to show how great both of them are, because both of them are all-time greats. I would have think that Mayweather would have got off to a better start in this fight. I would have thought that he'd be able to, pick his shots and probably build a few early rounds in the bank. Leonard, though, I think that he would have been able to increase the volume, and he had more power than Floyd, which is a big factor here for me. He had more power, and I think that maybe his punches would have been able to do a bit more damage on Floyd, whereas Floyd's shots were more scoring shots. He had his opponents mesmerized by like the 8th, 9th round. Sometimes he would have knocked them out like he did with Hatton. Other times he would just literally just coast his way to a points decision like he did against Zab Judah. But I would have think that Mayweather maybe in this fight here with Leonard, I just think that Leonard, he knew how to step it up a notch. He was the naturally bigger man, and I just think that he would have been able to have a bit more volume in his shots, and he's got a bit more power as well, which is why I would slightly favour Sugar Ray Leonard to win this on a decision. It's difficult. It is so difficult for me to pick against Floyd, because this guy was perfection when he fought. Do you know what I mean? He was somebody that just did everything right. It was very rarely he was caught up in, you know, I mean, he had that fight against Maidana where a lot of people thought that that might have been a draw. I thought that Floyd did enough to win that, but then he had the rematch. He won that more dominant. Jose Luis Castillo, back in Floyd's lightweight days, in his first fight as a lightweight, took him on. There was dispute over that first fight. A lot of people thought Castillo did enough to win. Then he had the rematch. He won that fight a lot more easier. With Sugar Ray Leonard here as a naturally bigger man, as a welterweight, somebody who's got the physical advantages over Floyd, somebody that punches harder, but also somebody that is just as slick and has a bit more volume, I would just pick him to win it. But it's difficult. It could have been one of them fights where it would have went either way. Like I said, Floyd, he was the more accurate fighter, and some of his shots, they were just looked at more as scoring punches rather than to hurt the opponent. Whereas Sugar Ray Leonard went out there, he tried to hurt you. Do you know what I mean? And I would think the judges may just favour him, but it's one of them. It would have been close, man. Floyd's right up in there with the argument for sure. And I know that a lot of the insiders would pick Sugar Ray Leonard in this particular fight, but I think it's very close, man. I do go for Leonard as well, but I do think that this is a very close fight, man, in terms of who would have won it. But yeah, I'm going to side with Sugar Ray Leonard. I'd love to hear your opinions. Harvey, make sure you give me your opinion on this as well. And let me know your thoughts on the comment section below as to how this would have gone. And any sort of Mythical Monday matchups for next week, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. And yeah, I could just imagine a build-up. I could just imagine the whole, you know, like all-American showdown in Las Vegas, these two. It would have been a show. It would have been a show, man. And two fantastic characters as well. And yeah, this is a dream fantasy fight. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.